today we're specifically focusing on the number 7. So let's go back to some modern day stuff in our own pop culture, right? Sometimes we like to talk about pop culture. Well, of course, if we look back on our most classic movies, let's talk about a classic movie. The Magnificent Seven, right? Classic Western. Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Robert Vaughn, Eli Wallach playing Caldera, the villain. A Magnificent Seven needed to fix a situation. Harm was being done in a certain village. Terror was being caused, and 7 righteous men are needed to rectify the situation. Beautiful movie if you haven't seen it. A great one to go back to. Now, of course, any pop culture fan, because, hey, you're listening to the Western Storyteller and we love pop culture, knows that if you're going to mention the Magnificent Seven, you got to go back a little further and mention the 7 Samurai of Akira Kurosawa. Similar story where 7 samurai come in to save a village, starring the classic Toshiro Mifune. If you haven't seen the movie 7 Samurai, you don't know Toshiro Mifune, man. You're missing out. You're missing out. Toshiro Mifune, he's Lord Toranaga-sama from Shogun. If you haven't seen Shogun, then you don't understand a great story told by James Cavell, the book, but the movie, even if you watch the movie. But that pattern of 7 samurai, and it's in a lot of the pop culture movies and stories that we see, and so there is this patterning of 7, and so we've been talking about this concept, and one of the last videos we did is talk about some of the concepts between pop culture and spirituality. And I mixed this concept of Haiti and heroes, and I used heroes to show you that we no longer should be using duality to prove our points. We should be using spirituality and things that are on another level to reinforce our story. We should be using sources that seem so strange and outerworldly that they reinforce our point so clearly that the fact that they're not even relevant from the same realm makes the point even more dramatic. That you can take something from a total other tangent, a fractal from another realm, and describe it in a way that it relates so clearly in oneness with what we're talking about from our realm that you see unity. Now that concept in the concept of 7 is there when we talk about pop culture, and we say that this concept of 7 is there even in our pop culture, that we see that this idea of going on a journey of 7 steps is there. And one of the last things that we did before the Haiti video was the idea of ascended masters, and that there are different levels of rays, and those rays connect to your chakras. Ooh. Oh, my brother Salim, again, you're going to that funky New Age stuff and talking about chakras? We're Muslims, we don't believe in chakras. Right. Why is it that we say we don't believe in chakras? We say all these ancient societies talked about this spiritual concept, that even within the body there are journeys that go through, and it is a 7-point journey, that there are masters of 7 rays. Well, let's talk about that. That in this concept of masters, there are many lists of different masters, but the concept of the higher levels of the realms being organized with masters of different rays, that we said on the first ray is Almoira, and the second ray, Kuthumi, the third ray, the Venetian, the fourth ray, Serapis Bey, the fifth ray, Hilarion, the sixth ray, Master Jesus, and the seventh ray, Saint Germain. In some of the cases, they also use Master Jesus as the sixth ray, or Lady Nada as the sixth ray. And so when we talk about these concepts, and we talked about the first ray and some of the different concepts of the ray, and that being the blue ray, and we described a description of Master Almoira, and we say there is a structure even in the Ascended Master teachings of this concept of 7, and that the colors of the masters and the flavors of the ray that we describe in a color, again, not being specific to a color, but just a reference point for the visual spectrum, since we talked about 7 color schemes of Newton, that we use colors also to describe ascended mastery levels, that we say that even in that scheme there is a 7-point pattern. So when I say to you, yes, you are listening to a Muslim who can even describe the patternings of the rays, and I say to you even now, as a commercial for the future, that I'm telling you that I have already activated you to the level 7. So one day in the future, and I'm trying not to laugh because I'm telling you that one day in the future I will tell you about the master of the 7th ray, my brother Germain. And I'm just wondering myself if I'm going to have enough time to tell you the true story about my brother Germain before he even shows up here himself. For those of us in the West who know how much the Saint Germain has been playing in the awakening of the land that we call America in the Western world, where the sun will rise. And we're going to be talking about strange things today that I'm saying to you. I'll tell you the story of Germain, but he might even beat me here, my brothers and sisters, because the stuff's happening so quickly and time is running so fast. But we said there's this concept of even the 7 levels of spirituality and 7 masters, and that there are 7 chakras in the body. Well, there are 7 levels of activation of 7 chakras in the body, and we say that some of these spiritual teachers teach that you go through each level of activation in the body through different spiritual journeys, sometimes through life, sometimes through spiritual exercises, sometimes through different processes, sometimes by just listening to a story. You can be activated all the way to a level 7. Is that possible? That we're saying that there's spiritual levels, that these things are in the body, and that there are different activations. Now, for those of you who don't study the Arabic language or the ancients, even from the Muslims, these things have been there in the ancient scripts and manuscripts for many, many hundreds of years. And amongst the Muslims, they have been called latifa, or lata'if, to symbolize that at different levels of activation, you become affiliated or aware of certain flavors or essences that are similar to the attributes of your Lord Most High. Right? Like the chakras and the rays are described like the Asma'ul Husna, like the glorious names and attributes of your Lord Most High, and we call these things lata'if, latifa, that you become aware of these attributes, and they awaken in you understandings. And that is how come some of the ancient Sufi systems used to be to teach people, here, say this one name of your Lord Most High, Al-Wadud, the loving, or Al-Alim, the all-knowing, or Al-Qadir, the one who plans. Say this name 1,000 times until you see that attribute manifested in yourself. And they used to meditate on these things and learn them. And the scholar who was teaching them would say, okay, he comes to me and he tells me what's going on in his life. And I tell him, here, say this one attribute of the Lord this many times, because this is the thing that you need to do next. And he would teach them which attribute to search and help them go on their journey. And this would be called a tariqah, a methodology, a system, a activation system. Oh, my brothers and sisters, those of you who follow maybe a Sufi path or wonder if there is something true in the Sufi methodology, this is what they're using as a methodology. Oh, my brothers and sisters who follow me and listen to this story and pay attention from the tales from the beginning to the end, don't you realize that I am teaching you something that is way beyond a tariqah? I am teaching you something that is farther than that and deeper than that. We're gone way past that level now, my brothers and sisters. Right? This has been a system that some of the scholars of that methodology have been maintaining and preserving from one generation to the next. And we're not knocking it. We're saying this is one methodology that the light has been continuing on. And it is a beautiful system. Of course, understanding the whole map in its totality is always the best way. But it's not always easy to find people who can say, listen, I can tell you the whole story from the beginning to the end.